Spontaneous speaking video 96. Alright, what's up everyone? It's been a while since I've done a spontaneous speaking video, which, just in case if you're new to the channel, spontaneous speaking videos are where I pretty much ramble on thoughts that I've been thinking about, straight through, no editing, just pull up the iPad, speak, post. So if you're watching and you're like, dang, like I'm having a hard time following his train of thought or whatever, it's kind of why. It's very extemporaneous. But anyway, today what we're going to be talking about is the concept of embarrassment. And to wrap this whole video up, I think that I've come to the conclusion that it is a social construct, which it could be very obvious to many people already that like, well, duh, it's a social construct. But that's an insight that I had recently. And one of the things that made me start thinking about this was that yesterday, some people that I know got food stamps. And I personally was like very happy for these people. But I remember growing up, and I remember things like my parents, for example. Now, we did not have food stamps as far as I know with my parents and everything, but I remember that my parents were very like embarrassed about stuff like that, or people in my family like, oh no, don't go around telling people that, you know, like about like getting food stamps or like whatever. And my mom is an ISFJ 6, and so, you know, I know that she's like very I guess anxious at times about what people think about her, and, you know, stuff like that and whatever. And, you know, I understand also the community that she comes from, like being an African and stuff like that. It's like, well, my son is growing to be a doctor. What is your son doing? You know, and then this competition maybe at times. So I get it. But becoming older now, it's just like I've been realizing this, like, bro, why should we, if we did have food stamps, why should we be embarrassed about it? Sure, it's not something that you just go posting on your status like, I got food stamps. But at the same time, it's like, if you were to tell someone, what's the big deal? You know, like, are you getting fed? Cool. Like, times are hard at times, you know? Like, if you're not making enough money to be able to feed yourselves, then go ahead and get the food stamps, you know? And then as you have the food stamps and you got that aid, then use that extra money or the money that you have been making to be able to, like, okay, now that my food is secure, I can actually invest this other money and use it in other areas such as bills and investing into like certain jobs and everything, because now I don't have to worry about spending this money that's already hard to make on food. That's just an everyday thing. To me, I think that's very smart, you know, and it's respectable. And soon, hopefully, you won't have to be on food stamps for much longer, because it's just something that's meant to be, like, you know, helpful. But again, the fact is, why was this such an embarrassing concept? And to me, I started to just think about stuff like that, and it's like, what other things are we as human beings embarrassed about, and why? You know, so then I just started thinking of like other things, such as like period stains, you know, from women. Now, granted, I am just someone who doesn't really like gore, so like it like it's not even just like period blood, but like, you know, just even like a prick on my own finger, like my own blood. I just don't like seeing blood. Period. So that's like different, I guess, in my case. But all in all, I know there's like been memes where it's like, okay, what would you do if you woke up and your girlfriend was like this or something like that? And it's like, you know, you wake up, you look beside you, and then your girlfriend had like wet the whole bed with like, or, you know, like her area of the bed with like, you know, period blood. And it's just like, why is this even a question? Like, this is not something, if, in my opinion, if you're a truly good boyfriend, husband, whatever, then you're not gonna embarrass her for this natural tendency, you know. Instead, it's not like the person like did it on purpose, you know. It's natural, and in that case, help her feel more comfortable, help her feel more secure. If she is actually embarrassed, then that could be a very bad sign, in my opinion. And then once again, so it's just like, starting to think about a whole bunch of other things. Like, what other things are we embarrassed about unnecessarily? The naked body. Now, it's different when you are trying, a lot of us, we hold our bodies as like sacred, like we only want our significant other at the time to see our naked body, or maybe people of the same gender, or certain close friends, whatever. There's a sacredness to it. But then, at the end of the day, like there was times where, and I'm guess I'm kind of like telling on myself a little bit, like I would think to myself, like a lot of people, their like worst fears are if a nude of themselves were exposed or put out into the public, and I think just because I knew it was a societal factor, F-E-Dom, then all of a sudden that became a fear of mine too. Like, oh yeah, well, duh, if this happened to me, I would definitely, like, panic and freak out. But then one day I really started to think, like a few years ago, and I was like, wait a minute. Not that I want this to happen, don't get it twisted, but if things did happen where somebody had a nude of me for whatever reason and was blackmailing me for it or whatever, or just was like trying to like post it and expose it, that is not the end of the world. Clearly it says a lot about their character, but what does that got to do with me? Okay, sure, unfortunately the sacredness of my naked body is now being, exposed to everyone. But it's not something for me to be inherently embarrassed about. Now, do I have a body built like, some of the, like The Rock or whatever? Like, no. But I'm not embarrassed about my body. I actually really like it, the way it is, and I'm continuing to work on it. So again, not saying that I'm trying to like post it out there, but it's like, this is not embarrassing. Now, of course, there are people out there who may not really be happy with their bodies and how it looks like and everything like that. But at the same time, it's like, I'm just against the idea of like body shaming in general. And I feel like we as a society, I think that we're growing towards that, like, no longer body shaming and everything like that. Sure, we should definitely, in my opinion, strive to be healthy. The way that I see it is like, if I'm at the gym and I see a really obese person struggling on, the treadmill or whatever, but I see them like every day, like, working at it, I don't think that person should be embarrassed if they're struggling to lift certain weights or whatever. In my opinion, I admire that person because they are actually trying hard. This is nothing to be embarrassed about. They're dedicated, they're showing commitment, they're showing strive. So even if I can't see that they're losing any pounds, the fact that they're aiming toward that higher goal instead of just sitting on their butt and just continuously trying to continuously not caring and like being sloppy with their lifestyle and everything like that, that's admirable. Now, I don't want to say anything about the second type of person that I just mentioned where like they just don't care and they're just continuously allowing themselves to like get fat or whatever, but that's their life, Anyway, so yeah, stuff like that, like, like the naked body, like going back even to being a Christian and everything, like, Adam and Eve. When they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then God specifically, like, God made their bodies. But then after they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then all of a sudden they realized that they were naked. So they tried to hide their nakedness from God. And God is like, yo, who told y'all that y'all were naked to begin with? They were trying to hide their nakedness even from each other. And it's like, how long have y'all even been in this garden naked with each other that now all of a sudden you're getting embarrassed? And aren't you two supposed to be husband and wife? Like, I don't really understand what's going on over here. But all in all, it's like, is embarrassment even probably potentially a part of the fall, Like, was there no embarrassment, no shame maybe before sin entered the world from a theological standpoint, of course? So these are all kinds of thoughts that I've been like, having, stuff like education, your degree. Hey, if you didn't graduate from high school or from college, or if it's taking you a little bit longer, trust me, I understood that. Then you shouldn't be embarrassed about it, like, just continue to strive, just like that obese person in the gym. As long as you're continuing to move, in my opinion, like, that's admirable, you know what I mean? And maybe you're not even moving in that direction, but you're moving in a different direction. You just felt like college wasn't for you. Don't be embarrassed because you don't have a degree, and we shouldn't make people embarrassed because of these things either. Occupation, stuff like that, like your job. Like we should not shame the janitor. We should not, and the janitor should also hopefully not be ashamed of their own job. Usually, we are only ashamed of what we. The reason why we get embarrassed to begin with is because we have a heightened awareness of what other people might think or say about us. But if we felt some type of safety, security with those around us, then perhaps we wouldn't be embarrassed as often. We wouldn't feel that fear of embarrassment as often. Even like stuff like farting and burping. You know what I mean? Now, granted, this does bring up another concept going off of the farting and burping. Is there a place where shame is actually kind of like necessary? I am still thinking about this, but I'm leaning toward yes, maybe, because it kind of helps us have some form of like consideration. So like if you wanted to flatulate, aka pass gas, be considerate of other people. Like burping, like all of these things that we call manners and everything. I don't think that we should shame people if they like fart in public or burp or something like that. But there's also responsibility on those people to be considerate, because now you like farting, you're now subjecting people to the very strong stench of your methane gas. And it's like, why would you want to do that, to the people around you? That is something that, you should be considerate of, in my opinion. But, if somebody just happened to let it go, how like, I always used to hate when we were younger, and people would be like, "Oh, what's that smell? Who farted? If you smelt it, you dealt it," kind of thing. It's just like, to me, my logic is like, who cares who farted? Sometimes I thought that because it was me, and it's like, I mean, who cares who did it? Let's just get away from here so that we don't have to smell it anymore. But also, like, a lot of times it really wasn't me, but I could only imagine how embarrassed the person probably felt as we're spending the next 5 minutes, even after the smell is gone, to try to figure out who farted. Why is this such a big deal? Oh, I smell that. But you know what? I'm going to keep this in my head. That way, I can kind of like, I don't know. You get what I mean? Like, I'm going to keep this in my head. That way I can just like, whoever like farted or whatever, maybe they just couldn't hold it. Maybe, I don't know what the situation is. But I'm going to try to let them be able to save some face with that, and pretty much keep them from being ashamed. Now, of course, if this is someone who just like abuses such tendencies and is not considerate and is just farting everywhere and like subjecting everyone to that, now that's different, and maybe that's where shame can have its place, or just kind of like speaking to the person, helping them understand like, that's actually not okay. It's not okay to just burp everywhere because for whatever reasons. And so there could also be other things, where that is necessary. But even then, like, to go as far as shame would probably be something that it's like, do we really have to go that far? So I don't know. But yeah, all in all, I believe that embarrassment is a social construct. And I pinned this question to my group chat for all of my YouTube subscribers and everything on Telegram, Ponder Palace, yesterday. And they had some really interesting thoughts about the whole topic. I literally just hit them up saying that I pretty much like the question was that I'm about to ask a very open-ended question. I know, shocker, because we always kind of like do that. I was like, but I've been thinking about it recently and want to know what others think. What do you guys think about the concept of embarrassment? And then one person in the group said something like really good. They're like, embarrassment, question mark. Gonna have to think about that for a while, but at the moment I'm thinking it's something people developed after living amongst people groups for so long. I don't think we experience embarrassment, or perhaps less severely, when no one else is around. So embarrassment may even be a side effect of the skill of social awareness or even empathy. And then another person said, an abrupt and sudden vulnerable break in the self image and expectation of others, expectations of that self image. All of this is just like, to me, is just like really like fascinating. And the first person said, the more I think about it, the more it does seem like a side effect of empathy or social awareness. I have an autistic sister, and when she was younger, she didn't get why you should apologize for bodily functions like farting in public, or why you should cover yourself in your body if your body's exposed. Her reaction was, everyone does these things or have body parts. Why be afraid of that? Why be anxious about people noticing? Of course, my parents in therapy helped teach her not to do these things, so now she avoids these kinds of behavior because she wants to avoid the reactions. While some of them I get the safety reasoning, I think that's how shame develops. We aren't naturally insecure about these things until we become aware of others' judgments. Obviously, that conversation went out for a while, but I thought that was so insightful, and that was the exact like mind thought process, whatever, that I was going through, like that I was like already like processing, like dang, like this is all being done from shame. We should probably be careful of where we are throwing shame, you know. I think that, do I want to get rid of the idea of or concept of shame altogether? Personally, not just yet, because before we get rid of anything, I want to at least make sure, like, is it helpful in any areas? And then if anything, we could probably just limit it to that area. Is it helpful to shame those who are racist? You know, maybe it probably is, but also at the same time, maybe those are the people that, instead of shaming them so that they can just run away and then continue to think whatever they're thinking, but now they're just afraid to like say it. How about you let them be free so they can say whatever they're thinking, you find who they are, and then you go gently talk with them and be like, yo, why do you think this way? Boom, 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 boom. Straighten it all out, get some clarity, whatever it might be. Because at the end of the day, I feel like shame isn't going to help that situation, unless if you're only trying to get the person to shut up as opposed to think in a different way. But shame never really helps people inherently think a different way, unless if it comes to, like, you know, things like, oh, I'm embarrassed of my body, because now we're shaming this person for having a small penis or something, or like not having, like, you know, big enough boobs, whatever it might be, darker skin, I don't know. But it's just like, why is this so big of a deal that now society, humanity, we all suffer with just this fear of embarrassment all the time. Going up to perform a spoken word poem. Why am I so embarrassed if I forget my lines? You know, am I all of a sudden now going to see the rest of the crowd like laughing at me and saying this guy's stupid or whatever? If they do, that's more of a something on them. And I feel like I had to really start to think that, because it's like, wait, ain't none of y'all up here doing this, you know? Like, so if that's the case, if anything, there was a time where I was performing spoken word and I could not get past a certain part, and I was struggling, and the audience knew. And instead of, like, you know, shaming me or booing me or whatever it might have been, what made me even have more hope in humanity was like, that's all right, son. You know, they started like clapping for me and everything anyway. And it was just really encouraging. Why can't we encourage more people? Next time that we start thinking about shaming someone, let's think, is this even necessary? Is it really necessary to shame this person? How is it going to affect the person? And is that going to be an overall really good way of, like, you know, just effective way of helping that person develop and grow as a person, you know? Yeah. Phew. I think I covered every point in my head about this. So what are y'all's thoughts about embarrassment, about shame? What are some instances that you believe that shame maybe is necessary? What are some things that I said that you possibly disagree with? Let me know what you think. Put them in the comments below. Also, don't forget, I offer life coaching services. Check out the link below in my description, or email me at dwzy2blessed at icloud.com if you're trying to get in some coaching sessions with me, whether it's relationship coaching, theology coaching, personality development coaching, whatever it might be, or if you just want to chop it up, to be honest, just talk about certain things in your life. I'm not a therapist, but we'll just leave it at that. But all right, I think that's everything, and I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. Done.